Sometimes lifting can get boring for various reasons. We've all heard it before, people that leave bodybuilding for powerlifting because bodybuilding is just boring. While that may be true for those people, I tend to think that if someone truly finds bodybuilding boring, that person wouldn't truly enjoy what bodybuilding would bring them if they were to stick with it. Of course, anyone would love to have a jacked physique if it was handed to them, but true bodybuilders are the people that would love to have a jacked physique regardless of the cost. So if I classify myself as a true bodybuilder that enjoys the result regardless of the cost, why would I bother talking about ways to enjoy your training? Actually, there are a couple of reasons. The first one is obvious. It's to help people achieve top tier bodybuilding results, even if they don't care about it on the same level someone like myself does. Of course, they still have to want it, but you don't quite need to have the same level of love for it like I do to get good results. The second reason is because as you get closer to your goal, it does become a little bit less exciting in my experience. Bodybuilding is somewhat unique in that way, where even before hitting 100% of your goal physique, you were at 99.999% the day before. If you compare that to buying your dream car, for example, it's very black and white. One day you don't have the car, the next day you do. If you look back at my Road to 18-inch arm series, I was just as satisfied at 17.9 as I was at 18 inches. Hitting 18-inch arms was only cool because of the number, not because I suddenly became exponentially more jacked. What I'm trying to say here is as you gain experience, the process can become more boring and repetitive, as I talked about a couple videos ago, and finding ways to enjoy your training without it all being at the expense of results is a useful variable to keep an eye on. I still think it's overrated, by the way, but that doesn't mean it's not important. I'm going to list a few ways to enjoy your training more than you currently are. Some options are more extreme than others, so I'm going to start out with the milder of changes and work towards the more major changes. One rule I did follow is that none of these variables can be at the expense of your long term results. Some of them will require more program overhaul than others, but they're all reasonable and they're all useful. The first one is simple, but it's quite overlooked in 2024. It's to get a pump or do some posing after your workout. The pump has become demonized, and with content creators having a responsibility to put out good information only and reject any bad information, nobody in the fitness industry wants to touch the pump with a 10-foot pole, with the fear of being ridiculed by the rest of the industry or accidentally confusing the beginners that, for whatever reason, they think have IQs of roughly room temperature. Here's one thing that's gotten lost in the anti-pump propaganda of the 2020s. It feels sick and it looks sick, and you can't really explain that with science. And it's not going to kill your gains unless you're chasing a pump at the expense of actually potent working sets. But if you want to do a set of 50 on curls or pushdowns or whatever without worrying about progressive overload or proximity to failure, at the end of a workout, I think you'll survive, and it'll feel cool as you leave the gym, so send it. The second one is to limit your rest times. This one sounds obvious, it sounds mundane, but please hear me out. Limit your rest times or set a time limit for your training session. This one doesn't directly make your training more enjoyable, but it does keep your sessions more efficient and focused, which reduces your time in the gym, making that time more dense with stimulus and indirectly, I should say, more enjoyable. I do this in phases, probably once every 3 or 4 months, when my rest times kind of get out of hand. If you're a logbook and progressive overload oriented lifter, you know your rest times creep up beyond what they need to be. When you have to beat the logbook to have a sense of self-worth for the rest of the day, why not take another couple minutes to ensure you're fully fresh for set number 2, especially if set 1 didn't result in a PR? When I put it like this, it's easy to realize how flawed this mindset is. To make you feel better, remember, this won't affect your first set because you can't really rest before your first set. You haven't done a set yet, which is arguably the most important, especially for the logbook's sake, set 1 that is. You'll also realize that even if you cut your rest times down to like 2 minutes, most of your lifts won't even see a noticeable drop in performance compared to higher rest times. You might lose a rep here and there compared to last week, but you will be shocked at how well your performance maintains even cutting down rest times. This is basically eliminating junk rest time like people would say you eliminate junk volume. I'm not suggesting 2 minutes across the board for your rest times, but working your rest times down to 2-3 minutes incrementally or just fully sending it next session is possibly in your best interest. The next one is to wear clothes that you like to wear, or clothes that make you look insanely jacked. I genuinely did write this down before I realized that I should do a Barbell Apparel shout out. So I'm going to take this golden opportunity while it's here. Barbell Apparel has a no questions asked replacement guarantee if something happens to your clothing, whether you outgrow it, get lean and need a smaller size, damage it, etc. I love their ultralight tech tees. That's what you're seeing me wear here, along with a potential little sneak peek of something else. Not going to name what it is. Uh, I love the ultralight tech tees, so that's what you usually see me wear. The basement bodybuilding tee is pretty sick too. I'd recommend getting one if you haven't already. If you want to support the channel, check the link in my description. As far as what you wear being important for enjoying your training, think about how fashion, style, uniforms have worked throughout history and to now. The clothes you wear can make you feel prepared for your day or a specific event. They represent your state of mind, similar to your physique. And just to pause on the script for a second, think about the last time you dressed up for something. It can be anything, a wedding, a job interview, whatever it is, any special event really. Think about how much better you felt during that specific time once you put that article of clothing or that uniform on. You instantly feel better just because you look good. I'm not saying you have to wear like a tux or a suit to your workouts, but how can you replicate that feeling to your workouts? You don't have to dress like dressing nice doesn't mean dressing fancy or whatever. It just means dressing in a way that makes you feel good. That's really all there is to it, and I would recommend taking advantage of that potential. A muscular, lean physique is a clear sign that the person who built and maintains that physique has discipline, intelligence, and is punctual and conscientious. The clothes you wear fall under the same category. Way back before I started my channel, I'd wear a flannel to sessions I needed motivation for, or when I was going in for a big PR or something. Of course, it doesn't directly make you a better lifter, but if it puts you in the right frame of mind, that's enjoyable itself. Nearly every high level lifter has a unique or clear sense of style, and this goes beyond just lifting. Most successful people have a clear sense of style. It's like a uniform they wear, or just a sense of fashion that lets them embody the way they want to express how they feel about something. The third one I have on this list is to use auto-regulation. I feel like a nerd saying that word, but it is what it is. Let me dive into it. So, auto-regulation, this can mean various things, but when done well, it gives your training a structured freedom, which is great. That's how most things in life are going to be best done. Sometimes we become a little bit too rigid, which kills the fun. Other times we become too free, which can result in spinning our wheels. Autoregulation is ultimately the art of mixing those two things to create a happy medium situation. Autoregulating your sets is a practical one to use, and even within a protocol that would fall under that categorization, you can choose how to go from there. Some lifters could benefit from performance metric based autoregulation, or some could go based on feeling, which I fall under the latter. For example, if you're basing it on performance, here's how that could work. Let's say your volume range for a lift is 2 to 4 sets, and your default, like your standard amount of sets that you usually do, is 3. If you hit a PR on set 1 or 2, you can end that lift there and save your energy for the rest of the session. If you fail to hit a PR on your first 3 sets, you could do a fourth on a different lift or a different week. Keep in mind, this can also be effective in the opposite way, to take advantage of good days and keep fatigue low on bad days. There's really no right or wrong way to do this, within reason, of course. If you go based on feel, you can just do however many sets you feel like for that day. Sometimes this is nice psychologically. If you know you have to do 3 sets of hack squats, but instead, say you can do 1 through 4, now you feel like you get to do 3 sets instead of having to do 3 sets. This works really well for me, and it also makes me feel dumb that I can manipulate myself like that, but it works, so it is what it is. The fourth one is to change your technique. This is where it gets a little bit more extreme, to where you are going to be seeing more changes within your programming, your training overall. So with this, study the technique of lifters that are better than you. Don't get carried away with this and just copy people for the sake of copying people. Just because they're better doesn't mean they're like overall a better lifter. They could just be more advanced, aka just lifting longer than you. But changing your approach can make a noticeable difference to your stimulus or fatigue, depending on where you're at right now. If you're someone that always tries to get more out of less weight or is a little bit timid when it comes to adding weight to your lifts, then taking a more aggressive approach and working towards using more productive cheat in your training could actually give you more stimulus or even get you to train harder. The same can be said the other way around. If you're super caught up in the numbers and constantly shy away from positions where you're at a disadvantage strength wise, cleaning up your form and exposing those weaknesses could do wonders. We've all seen the guys that dumbbell bench, the dumbbells stay nice and tight to their chest and they get no range of motion. They kind of bounce out of the bottom. We've also seen the guys that are like afraid to add weight to their lifts at the expense of technique. The guys that pause every single little thing, focus on too much control, and it's at the expense of their effort. They never accelerate through a concentric and really apply that force to a concentric. They're just focused on controlled, and those are kind of the two extremes. You want to find that happy medium, and in a lot of cases, it's good to kind of work from within reason, one extreme to the other, and then you can kind of reset and go through cycles. A technique reset would be a pretty easy way to kind of summarize that, which is a very valuable way of training in my opinion. Potentially I could talk more about that in the future if people in the comments would like to hear more about that. So the fifth one I have is, it's interesting, but it's to use an AMRAP, so as many reps as possible, timed approach, so within a specific time frame. You can use any other intensity technique like rest pause, etc. This can just be straight up enjoyable and truly challenging. An example for the rest times approach I mentioned would be something like setting a timer for 3 minutes and doing as many reps as you can within the confines of 3 minutes. This guarantees intense reps and in a short amount of time. Don't overthink programming this one, just pick a lift that's safe and easier to set up and execute and have fun with it. Rest pause and other intensity techniques are straightforward, just use them somewhat sparingly and with high effort. You'll find in most cases you won't stick with them long term, but they're fun in the short term and can be a really good way to break away from your usual training without having to take time off or rotate your lifts. There's something about having just like a 3-minute timer where you know when it's over. Like, you know when you can rest, so you're more prone to being able to go all out in that time because there's a clear light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes when you're just training to failure, it can feel like the set's never going to end just because you don't know when it will end or how hard that last rep will be. All these little things can kind of distract you, so something like this where it has a clear end, it can be very, very nice psychologically. So it sounds extremely simple and straightforward, but sometimes you just have to open your mind and try new things. I'm not telling everyone to use this or use it all the time even. It just can help you out a little bit. So my sixth one is to do a specialization phase. This one is super valuable for, generally speaking, more advanced lifters. I'm not saying like, oh, you have to bench 405 to be advanced. It's like, no, if you're a little bit more advanced to the point where you know what you're doing, you've been lifting for a handful plus years, and you've hit various plateaus in your training, and you have big arms. Those are the people it's better for, so not beginners. This requires genuine patience, a specialization phase. No beginners need this type of training, aside from just biasing certain muscles in general in your program, and most beginners aren't going to follow through with this type of training anyways, because as soon as they focus on one muscle group, they get FOMO and worry about the muscles on the back burner, and this leads to program hopping. You might think that I'm like talking down to beginners when I say this, but that couldn't be further from the truth. What I'm saying is that these beginners actually have correct instincts. This is correct. They shouldn't be doing specialization phases, and that's why they can't commit to them. They worry about the muscle groups that they're not specializing in because they know those muscles need to grow, and it's important to listen to those instincts. I'm glad I never followed through with a specialization phase as a younger lifter, because it would have delayed my long-term growth. As a more advanced lifter, you'll realize how slow growth tends to be at this stage, especially in certain muscle groups, so you can truly embrace maintaining them because you're not missing out on nearly as much, and that allows you to kind of have that peace of mind needed to put some muscles on maintenance or close to it and grow other muscles that you might care a little bit more about at a certain point in time. My final one, the seventh one, it's to build a home gym. I'm not saying you need one like mine, but what if you got one or two pieces of equipment for parts of your workouts? I'll give an example here. Let's say you're someone who wants big calves, but isn't too motivated to train them, especially at the end of a leg day when you're tired and you want to go home. Then one day, you see a standing calf raise machine on Facebook Marketplace for $75. You decide to buy it and put it in your garage next to the door you walk through daily. Do you think that would improve your calf training? I'd say for serious lifters, it would 9 out of 10 times. I could talk forever about building home gyms. There's no need to. We all know the benefits of them. You can get whatever you want, design it however you want, and decorate it however you want, of course, within your space and budget. I don't want to glorify home gyms because they truly aren't for everybody, and I mean it when I say that. A lot of people need the social environment to do well. We all do, in my opinion, to varying degrees, to where some people can thrive in a home gym, and some people have literally zero motivation in a home gym. Their equipment collects dust, they go back to the commercial gym the next week. So, what I would say, even if you take a hybrid approach where you do some stuff at home, some stuff at the commercial gym, it gives you some novelty. Think about my outdoor workouts. It adds novelty to the mundanity of my home gym sessions using kind of the same equipment every time. So it's just nice to get a new environment, get a change of pace. It's refreshing. I also wanted to say, if you're at this timestamp in particular and you do have a home gym, for example, my Boost Camp home gym program came out. It's the home gym version of my upper lower split. So it's just about the same thing, but it has all the variations for home gym equipment that you likely have. It is free, so you don't have to pay for it. You just have to go through my link to download the Boost Camp app in my description, and you'll be good from there. It might ask you to use like a code or pick someone when you sign up. Just use code BASEMENT or select my name to support the channel, and you're all good. It's very straightforward. It has all of it assumes you have all of the basic home gym equipment, so a squat rack, pull-up bar, barbell in place, adjustable dumbbells, and an adjustable bench, maybe like a pull-up and dip station too. But the most important thing for this is it has variations for common or realistic upgrades. So if you have a cable tower or like a lat pull down or a preacher curl or something like this, those variations exist within that program in slots that they would be best slotted into. So it really has you covered on all bases. If you are a home gym guy and you've liked my channel, like, please give this program a try if you feel like you need a new program at the moment. So yeah, it's free. I'm not selling you anything. It's just a genuine program that I would suggest using. It's a 4-day upper lower split. Either way, that's all I've got for today. See you guys in the next one.